if you're looking to save money, a great place to start is with your biggest expenses first. For millions of Americans, that means taking a closer look at your car, and more specifically at how much you're paying to insure that car. Here to give us 5 simple steps to lowering your car insurance bill is Manisha Thakor, founder of the Women's Financial Literacy Initiative and author of Get Financially Naked. Hi, Manisha. Great to see you again.
Great to see you, Tanya.
So I want to make sure we hit on all of your tips on how to save on your car insurance. So I'm going to dive right in. And first you say, interestingly enough, is that you need to pay all your bills on time. That makes perfect sense. But you also say that includes your library fine. Now, I don't know what library fines have to do with car insurance, but I'm sure you're about to tell me.
So this is interesting, Tanya. Everybody is looking for money, including municipalities. So oftentimes, if you've got big library fines and they're not being paid, libraries will now send them into collections, and the bill collectors will come after you. So when I say you need to pay all your bills on time in order to keep your credit score up, literally it includes things like library fines.
Oh my gosh. All right. I'm glad I know that now. I'll be a lot more careful at the library. Now, another tip, and we hear this often, is that you should raise your deductible. Now, what is an appropriate deductible then?
So here are the numbers. If you raise your deductible from $200 to say $500, you could see your premiums drop as much as 15 to 30%. If you raise your deductible from $200 to $1,000, you could see your premiums drop as much as 40%. The key to figuring out what's the right deductible for you is how much cash do you have in that emergency fund, because of course if something goes wrong, you now have to pay that before your insurance will kick in.
So let's say you do raise your deductible to that $1,000 mark. What's the average, fender bender these days? What's it costing people?
Well, so if you raise it to the $1,000 mark, what'll happen is no matter how expensive the fender bender, your out-of-pocket would be the $1,000 before your insurance kicks in. And the math is hopefully that 40% reduction would give you enough in cash coming in to save up that $1,000 if, God forbid, the fender bender does happen.
Right. All right. Sounds good, Manisha. Now, are people afraid to do this because of the risk, or do you think that, you think everyone is just worried that they're going to be in that one big accident that they can't afford, or is it more than that?
I think, Tanya, it's just psychologically, it feels better thinking, oh, if something goes wrong, I'll only have to pay $200. And so it's not a math issue, because mathematically, if people sat down and added up each month how much they would save in their premium, it would exceed typically the deductible amount. And that's the whole point of raising it.
Right.
The flip side is just you need to make sure you don't spend that extra money that you're saving by lower premiums, which oftentimes is what happens, and that's when people get into the problem where they have the accident and then they can't pay the deductible.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to move on to your next tip now, which is to ask your insurance carrier if you're eligible for any good driver or other discounts. Now, we hear about this kind of thing in TV ads, but how much can it really save you?
Surprisingly, it can be a fair amount. 10, 15% is not abnormal, and it's not just good driver. Interestingly, if you have a track record of no speeding tickets, or you're married, being married, supposedly those of us who are married are more responsible, and we have more to lose, I guess, while we're behind that wheel. And if you have multiple policies at the same carrier, oftentimes you could see 10 to 15% discounts.
Now, and these aren't things that they're going to offer you. You've definitely got to ask for them.
It varies so much from company to company. Some companies are fabulous about proactively asking you. Others kind of wait, and so that's why I really want to get this message out to ask and see if you are eligible for these. All
right, sounds good. Now, another tip you have is to stop texting or talking on the phone while driving. Obviously, this is dangerous anyway, but how will this affect your insurance rates?
Yeah, so if you have an accident due to distracted driving, good luck when it comes to renewing your policies. Insurance companies are increasingly frustrated with those of us that yap or text while we're driving and what that's doing. And I mean, besides the whole awful human and moral issues there. And what's interesting, Tanya, is we finally gotten to a point where it now costs more to insure teenage girls than it does teenage boys.
Really?
Because the risk of texting and driving has now exceeded the risk of testosterone and driving fast. So
that's got to be a first in history.
Yeah, I mean, that tells you a lot about how serious this texting in distracted driving issue is.
Absolutely. I did not know that. Wow. All right. Now, last but not least, you say we need to shop around. Insurance premiums really can vary significantly from carrier to carrier, right?
They do, and a lot of times people think like, oh, it's such a pain in the neck to do this, and ironically, it really isn't. There are two great websites, insurance.com, insweb.com. You can go there, or you can call a couple of carriers, and for 15 minutes, literally, you can save yourself $1,000 or more, depending on the adjustments, and we all could use a little extra money.
Of course we could. Now, Manisha, obviously the amount of insurance that you're paying is going to vary tremendously based on whether or not you're male or female or married or whatnot, but what is a reasonable amount to spend on car insurance?
You know, I'm seeing policies around $1,000 a year, and again, I'm saying around because it varies dramatically depending also on city. You know, if you live in certain cities, I'm talking to you from Houston, Texas today, rates on insurance can be higher here because we've got all those, 6-7 lane freeways, and that heat makes us sometimes angry drivers.
Yes.
So, but I'd say about $1,000 per car. If you have an average car, the more expensive your car, $1,200, $1,300 could be reasonable, and if it's a lower price car, $700, $800 a year.
Oh, it's no doubt that having those wheels are going to cost you. All right, Manisha, thank you so much.